Today, we're going to talk about deadlines. It's one of the most important things of a real estate transaction because all the different dates in that contract really affect the outcome of the contract. Hi, I'm Genevieve Partsch with Hearthstone Real Estate. So let's talk about the first deadline. You make an offer or you get an offer from a buyer, and there's this expiration date that the offer needs to be responded by that time. Expiration date is determined by the buyer in the initial offer. There are quite a few agents out there who do not give a lot of time to respond, and that's because they want to secure that house for their client. And as I always say, if a seller wants to sell and a buyer wants to buy, let's put this together as quickly as possible. Why do we need to wait? So that's the first deadline. And if the seller misses that deadline, the buyer has the right to go find another house, unless you have an extension in writing. And I'm not a big fan of extensions because why do we write in dates in that contract if we are going to keep extending them? So that's really the first date. The second date that's important is the earnest money. Earnest money, if it's not given to your agent when you make the offer, it has to be received within a certain amount of time. Often we see buyers put 24 or 48 or even 72 hours to have their earnest money somewhere. Sometimes it can be 96 hours if the buyers will be out of town. If you don't have that earnest money to where it's supposed to go, like the title company or your real estate office, and they didn't receive it in the amount of time, technically the offer is void because that was something you were supposed to do. If that happens, the seller can actually accept another offer. It's really important you make those deadlines. So that was number 2, and probably hand in hand, but it's a pre-qual letter, is number 3. So sometimes a pre-qual letter comes with a contract, and sometimes it says upon acceptance by, let's say, 5 p.m. that day. So if you didn't do that, again, you're out of contract. Number 4 and 5, I think could be argued that they're probably the most important. Everyone has their idea of what is the most important, and I'm talking about the objection to deadlines for number 4. So you have to have all your inspections done by that deadline and ask the seller whatever you want to be repaired. So if you're on the seller side and you don't get any objections by them, the buyer is taking it as is condition. If you're the buyer and let's say the roof is bad and you don't get your objection in, then you're taking that property as a as-is condition, like I said. And you can't ask for that roof. I mean, you can try, but a lot of times people are going to say no to that. So that was number 4. Let's say you didn't ask for repairs and now there's a reevaluation time. So it's the time between the objected deadline and the resolution date, and that we have to go back and forth to make sure that we come together in agreement of what the seller is going to fix. If we don't come to an agreement or the seller does not respond, even by the resolution date, you have to go back out of the deal unless you're willing to take that house as is condition, and you can't go past the resolution date. So you have to make sure that you follow these dates. Obviously, you have a real estate agent that's helping you through this process. But I tell my clients, you want those dates in your phone, in your planner, on a sticky note, on your fridge, on your computer, whatever you have to do to make sure that you do not miss those important dates. One deadline that's not talked about much is the date that the title is received by the buyer and the days that the buyers get to object to the title. And of course, the last date in the contract is closing. Obviously, we have to make the closing date, and that's kind of dependent upon your lender, your appraisal's rights. Now, because the appraisers are so behind, it's a refinance boom and there's a lot of people buying, but that's another topic for another time. So remember, I love to help you making all your dates in your contract. I want you to love where you live. Make a great home buying and selling day, and I'll see you soon.